Hey everybody, Brett with Tumbo here today. So we're going to go through a kind of a demonstration, unbox, and an installation video on our flagship toy, which is called the Solo Slinger. What this is a Zipline, bungee-powered Zipline toy that's adjustable between about 35 and 50 feet. So it gives the dogs a really wide range of play and really interactive and a lot of fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up here and kind of show you everything that comes in the box. I'm just going to lay everything out on here and then we'll kind of touch on all of it. Let you know what they are and what they're for. Alright, so first and foremost, we have full color instructions available to come with it. This is going to go step by step, show you everything that's included, and then how to set everything up to get you going with this. We're also, like I said, going to do a full installation video today to show you on video how that all works and how easy it is to get set up and going. So, with that aside, we've got our cable. This is what gives the adjustability. This is going to span, we have a 55-foot long cable included here, and that's going to span, you know, anywhere from, we can set this up between 35 and 50 feet. So we have an extra 5 feet of cable so that you can wrap around tree trunks, posts, whatever your connection points are, give you a little bit of flexibility there. We have the 2 long bungee cords. These stretch along the whole system. Let me open one of these up here and I'll kind of show it to you. These have carabiner hooks on each end, and so we connect each one of these on one end, and then they go to the center, and then concurrently, same thing with the other side. And this is what provides the power of the slider and toy moving back and forth along the line. So we've got 2 of those for you. We've got the tensioning device. This is what tensions up our cable, makes it really easy to install. We can get the lines nice and tight so you're not worried. A lot of times when people are setting up cables like this, most methods include U-bolts. They're a little hard to get the cable snug and tighten. This makes it a lot easier. We've got some protective tubing that we can wrap, or put the cable through here to protect tree trunks, fence posts, things like that, whatever you're using, just from the cable biting into those. We've got the slider. This is the unit that actually moves back and forth along, that holds the toy, and the bungee cords that we showed you a moment ago connect to this as well. And this is what slides all along the length of the toy. We've got the actual rope toy, which is approximately 5 feet long, and it's going to hook onto that slider and hang down, and this is what the dogs are going to be yanking all over the place. This is replaceable. We sell all of these parts online, so everything, if any damage ever occurs, you can replace individual pieces without having to buy the whole kit. And then we've got a series of 16 black carabiners, and these are used to keep the bungees secure and tight along the length of the cable so they're not sagging down. So that kind of introduces you to the system and all the parts. What we're going to do now is get into the whole installation video. We're going to show you step by step how to install that. Without further delay, let's go ahead with that. Alright, so we're going to start the installation now, and we're just going to kind of go through everything here step by step. So once you get everything unboxed, the first step listed on the instructions here just shows a picture of all the components, kind of like how I have them laid out right here. So you're just going to want to lay everything out, make sure you have everything here and available, and then we can kind of get started. First step is we've got the cable. That's the first part that we're going to be dealing with. This comes packed in a coil like this with a zip tie on it, so you're going to need to cut that off. And then what we usually do to start with is this comes in a roll, and you don't just want to let it go because it'll get all tangled up on you. So what we want to do is, once we figure out where we're going to be hanging this, we are just going to kind of lay it out on the ground along our length and just start laying it out along the ground, kind of unrolling it as we go. That way we avoid any tangles, because cables can become a real mess if they're not handled correctly. But once we get this all laid out between the 2 points, we're going to come back in and I'm going to show you how to do the first connection around the first tree branch. Okay, so I'm up here at our first connection point. We've selected this tree branch to go around. I am also going to use, so that protective vinyl tubing we talked about when we were doing the unbox is basically here to protect things like tree trunks from the cable biting in, fence posts, deck posts, whatever you're using to connect to. In some cases it's wise to use that just to help give a little protection. So I've cut our vinyl tubing in half. You can do that with a regular pair of household scissors. And I've already pre-ran it all the way through the cable to save a little bit of time. So the first step, we've already got a loop factory installed on this cable. So all we really need to do is wrap this around our first connection point, whatever that may be for you. And then we take the other end of the loose end of the cable and run it right through this loop here. And all we need to do is pull all this slack out. And as we're doing that, we kind of position that vinyl tubing on that backside where all the tension is. And we've got that all set and secure. So we've got this hanging for our install today at about 8 feet. You want to have it usually above where people, because you're going to be going across areas where people may be walking underneath. So you want to have it up a little way. That way people aren't running into it. And if you're maybe doing lawn maintenance and things like that, you can mow underneath without it becoming a problem, hitting people's heads and whatnot. So, but there is plenty of adjustment as far as height goes, because the toy that does hang from it is 5 feet in length. So it does come down a good amount of distance as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move over to the second connection point. We're going to show how to cinch this cable up top. Alright, so we're up at our second connection point. We've selected this branch here on this cherry tree, and we're going to kind of do steps 3 and 4 all at once. So step 3 is basically just to put the slider onto the cable. So we're going to run the cable through the slider, pull out some of this slack, and then I'm just going to kind of send that down the cable out towards the middle to get it out of the way for right now. Next step is to use our tensioning device, which we have right here. So right in the front of this, there's a little hole, and that's going to be the first spot we put the cable through. So I'm going to run the cable through there, and then this drum that spins and tensions everything up has 2 holes in it. So I'm just going to kind of show you that there. I'm just going to select one of the holes. It doesn't really matter which one. You just want to go through one of those right now. And then, since we're connected to another tree branch, I'm also going to use another piece of the vinyl tubing, and I'm going to put that on now as well. And then I'm just going to kind of pull the slack through both of these. So once I've got most of that pulled out, I'm going to run the cable right around our second connection point here. And then we're going to take that loose end of the cable and go back through that second hole in that drum that we didn't use the first time. We're going to pull all that excess right out the bottom. And this is what makes it nice, so you don't have to have, it gives you that adjustability. You don't have to have 2 perfect points in your yard. Obviously nobody does. And this is going to allow that excess to just pull through the bottom and not become a problem for you. So we've got our vinyl tubing here positioned where we want it. We're going to pull as much of this slack as we can. We don't have to get it all because this tensioner is going to pull it all up nice and tight for us. But we get most of it out of there. And then what you need to use, the only tool really needed for this whole installation is just a 9/16 box end wrench, or I'm actually using an adjustable wrench right now. A lot of people have these on hand, and it's really easy to do. We've just got a square bolt here on the side, and that's used to turn this ratcheting drum. So we get that adjusted on there, and we're just going to rotate this and spool everything up. You want to make sure you get about, at least 1.5 to 2 full turns on this. That's why we want to leave a little bit of slack in that cable, because we want to make sure it's secure and goes all the way around a couple of times. And we're just going to keep tensioning that up until we get it nice and tight. You can see kind of how easy and quick that went. We'll put one more click in there. So we've got a nice tight cable, easily for the slider to move along, no sagging, it looks nice. And that kind of concludes steps 3 and 4. And we'll kind of move on to the next one now. Okay, so that last step actually took us through steps 3 all the way through 6. We've got detailed pictures here that show the tensioning device and where you want to put the cables through all those individual holes we were showing you. But at that time, we wanted to show you kind of a fluid installation of the whole thing all at once. So this details it out. We are now on step 7, which puts us into the position where we need to grab our bag of carabiners. We've got 16 of these here. and we're going to be installing 8 of them on each of these 2 bungee lines. The bungee lines are about 15 feet in length, and we're going to run these, we want to position them roughly 2 feet apart along the line. We don't have to get that perfect right now. We're going to be adjusting them later once it's connected to the cable. But now we're just going to show you a couple methods of how to get these onto the bungees here. So first method is just to open this big silver carabiner here, slide the black one onto it, and then right over the top and run that down. And we're going to get that on, and we can just run these all the way down the bungee and space them out like I said. Sometimes it helps to start, because these are so long, you might want to do 4 on one side and 4 on the other, and then kind of move into position, just so you don't have to slide all of these all the way down to the one side. The other method is just to simply pick out your points along the bungee and open up the carabiner, and then simply slide it right over, right into position. And you can do it that way as well, whichever works out easiest for you. Either way, what we're going to do now is we're going to prepare both of these. We're going to get all 16 clips on the 2 bungee lines, and then we're going to show you how to attach those to the cable, which is the next step. Okay, so we're back out here. We've located our slider, which is we put in the center of the cable earlier, and step 8 is just to attach these bungees to the slider. So the way we do that is we just take either end of the bungees, and we're just going to connect it through both of these loops that come out of the slider. So we're going to connect one, and then we're just going to connect the other one, and then we're ready to move on to connecting it on each end of the zip line. Alright, so I'm back at the first connection point, and I've got one end of one of the bungees, and what we're going to do is we're just going to clip that into this loop here that went around the tree so that that's secure. Now I'm going to go over to the other connection point and show you how to connect this up to the tensioning device. Alright, so we're at connection point number 2 here, back with our tensioning device. This tensioning device has a hole in the side of it that you can see right here. And what we're going to do is that's where this carabiner is going to hook. So we're going to want to put it on from the bottom side so that the bungee hangs below the cable. And we're just going to slip that right on here like that, and then we're all set. The other thing I want to touch on really quick is the adjustability. So when we hung this up, we have a little bit of extra cable here. We've got about 10 feet of extra cable. So we've got about a 42 to 45 foot distance here, and we have this extra slack. So what a lot of people, just so it's not hanging down on the ground, we can remove some of the slack and cut it off, which isn't a problem. But we want to make sure we don't cut it off really close to this. We don't want anything to unravel. We want to make sure there's enough here that's going to keep this nice and tight for you. So what we recommend, if you want to remove some of this cable, if you have a lot of excess, is just to kind of take a couple wraps around the tree. I mean, you could save all of this if you want. If you ever think that you might want to take it down from this spot and move it to another spot that might be longer, you may want to save all of this, in which case you could just wrap it up somewhere up here so it's out of the way. But if you don't want to have all this, if you've got quite a bit, you can easily just take a couple wraps and kind of tie it off somewhere back in here. That way it'll remain secure, and then you can cut it off back here, and that way everything stays tight for you as well. Alright, so now for step 10, we've got a combined step, which we're going to hang the toy, which I'll show you now. We're going to go right back to the slider's 2 cable loops that hang down, and we're going to connect this carabiner right to the bottom of those, and so that's going to be hanging right there, sturdy and secure. And then the next step is just to attach all of the carabiners that we've previously installed onto the bungees right onto the cable themselves. And so you can just kind of move along, get all these set up. I'm going to get all these set up now, and then we're going to kind of show you everything, how it looks once everything's set up. But now you can kind of see how these carabiners work. And we want to get them, like I said, roughly about 2 feet spaced apart. They don't have to be perfect. They're going to be sliding along. But what it does is it just keeps this bungee staying close to the cable so everything's really streamlined and compact. Alright, so we finished up connecting all the carabiners, and you can kind of see how it all's set up. This is basically the end of the installation. So we've got we went through all the steps, we've got everything set up, and now just a quick demonstration on how it works so you're kind of familiar with how this all moves around. Obviously the dog, this is the part he's going to be dragging around. So if he was to drag it off to one side, this is going to freely, smoothly slide all the way down to one end, either end. And then when it's released, if your dog decides to let it go, it's going to shoot off towards the center and bounce around, and then they're going to tear off after it and go for it again. And the same thing happens if I drag it off this way. We're going to pull that right down all the way to the end, and we're going to let it go, and it's going to shoot back. So it can provide hours of play for the active dogs especially, and a lot of times, because the dogs are only able to get to this point of it, this is obviously a wear item, so we do sell these as replacements. But as long as the dog cannot get up to any of these components, then you're going to have a long-lasting thing here that the dogs, really the active, aggressive dogs are really going to be able to tear on and not cause any damage to themselves or the unit. But anyway, now you know how it works. We hope you enjoyed the video. We hope it makes it a little easier to get it installed. It does have a lot of components. It is kind of an in-depth product, but if you follow everything step by step, I'm sure you'll get it up with ease and have a lot of great fun with it. So anyhow, thanks for spending some time with us today, and we'll see you soon.